let's go to the movies with Lupo, Lee, and G. I'm GW Pomacher, and up on the screen with us, we've got That is Lupo.
Hey, guys.
And that is Lee. That's right. And we are ready to go to the movies this week. The guys, actually, this week we've gone back in time a couple of weeks because there was a movie that we didn't get to do a review on. So we are going to start out with a review of the extremely, the reviewers are going crazy over it. The internet's going crazy over it. It's controversial. It's Oscar worthy, according to many. We're going to find out if that's true. The Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. And then Lupo went out on his own this week, and apparently he was lonely. He was looking for a date. I don't know. But he ended up at a movie theater watching a movie on his own. So he's going to tell us a little bit about that and that experience. And then we're going to dive in. We have some very special stuff coming up down the road we're going to talk about. And Mark's going to lead us off with some really great upcoming news. So let's dive in. First of all, guys, say hi to the internet. Mark, how you doing, man? How's this week going for you?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. Good to see you, Garrett, Lupo. Good to see you guys. The week has been fantastic so far. Really anxious to get into talking a little bit about these movies and a lot of stuff that's happening down the road. So that's it.
Fantastic. And Robert Lupo, how are you, the Orlando Wizard? What have you been up to this week?
Well, filming for the Orlando Wizard show and putting up a new video for this Sunday at 5 p.m., which will be different because this is going to air after my video's up. So
you guys should have seen the Orlando Wizard on HWWS WebTV.
It was awesome. What he is putting up tomorrow was fantastic. I watched it tomorrow, and it was ahead of its time.
That's right.
It was ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time.
Oh my God, I was gobsmacked. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. All right, guys. So a lot has been said. A lot has been written. I mean, it was impossible to avoid reviews, ratings, rants, and raves on this movie. So you guys have been to the theater now. You've actually seen the movie. Let's talk about the hype around Joker, the new Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. Let's start with Mark. Mark, you get to see this movie. I know you walked in having been barraged on all sides from all of this information coming at you. It's good, it's bad, it's controversial. What did you think when you finally got in the theater?
It's really interesting. There were no pre-reviews like some people, trade services and whatever likes to say it's the greatest movie ever seen. You ever see on TV where you see these? It's like, well, what are you talking about? We haven't seen it yet. Hasn't come out yet. Yada yada yada. Luckily, I avoided all of that, and I went in saying, well, I gotta see this movie only because I like Joaquin Phoenix. I loved him when he was in Gladiator and played the Emperor. Then he was a piece of ass then, but I went in with no preconceived notions, which I love. I wasn't spoiled basically by anything other than the trailers that were being shown on the TV. And the first thing that struck me, I said, oh, this is going to be good, was the trailer's soundtrack, where they hit you in the face with a chord, hit you in the face with another chord, and it's like, whoa, yes, that's how I like my movies, when it has that sort of soundtrack attached to it. Lo and behold, I went in. Of course, I try to go Thursday or before to see any of my movies when I can. And I'm glad that I did, because I was able to literally write down a review that night. Had to. I was rushing home to write down a review. I want to preface this by saying the last movie that I predicted a Best Actor winner was Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay, that was the last movie. I am now predicting the same thing for Joker.
Wow, that is something. Lupo, man, you've been to see this movie. Again, all the hype, everything around it. What did you think when you got in the theater, man?
So honestly, I had mixed reviews on this film when I went to see it. I wanted to see it, and like Lee, I didn't try to spoil it. I saw the previews, and I heard about the controversy on it, but I wanted to go in with a fresh perspective. And, I'll start off by saying I'm glad I saw it. I went and saw it with a few of my friends that also wanted to see this film. And I agree with Mark on the fact that Joaquin Phoenix was spectacular in this role. I mean, it was probably, in my opinion, one of the best roles he's ever done. So believable, so engrossed in the character he was, that if he doesn't win a Best Actor for this, then it's rigged. I mean, that being said, we could start talking about the ins and outs about the films and what we liked and didn't like.
Yeah, absolutely. So this movie has been by, the pro reviewers and by those who have seen it, not the customer reviews, not the Rotten Tomatoes guys, but the reviewers and those people. This movie has been called an absolute study in character development. And I'm curious from both of you if that's true, if that's something they have to look forward. This is a deep dive, rather than just the traditional comic book origin story that people have become accustomed to. This is a deep dive into a character's descent. This is a true transformation on screen. So we'll start with Robert Lupo. Lupo, what did you think of that aspect of the film? Is that a true statement? Is this really a good character study?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The thing I didn't like about the film was the shoving of the background. I felt that there was way too much background. There was background that it didn't have to be in there because it was just being repeated over and over and over again. And I literally found myself in the theater going, can we get on with the story? Can we I mean, you've already covered this a dozen times. We get this, move on. And it pulled me out of the movie. I was getting to the point where I was getting bored of the repeated character development. And then there was aspects of the character development that I felt were very uncomfortable. But in my opinion, although I was very uncomfortable with it, I felt that it really developed the character, and it was important. And it's like, I felt it was very uncomfortable every time he went into these fits of laughter that he couldn't control. And I felt it uncomfortable, but it was vital to who he was. So even though I was uncomfortable, I was necessarily uncomfortable to really develop him. But I felt that there was unnecessary leg in the film that could have been trimmed or supplemented with something else, because it was just constant repeat over and over of the same subject matter. And I also noticed, looking around the theater, when I realized that this was really kind of pulling me out of the story, I looked around and I literally saw people pulling out their phones. I saw people getting up to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, other people are feeling the same way. Yeah. It didn't need to go that far.
Mark, what did you think, man, in terms of building this character and really building it from scratch? Because like I said, a lot of origin stories have been told in the comic book world. This actually went outside and told a dramatic character story. What did you think?
It told a more logical origin story. Aside from Heath Ledger's performance as a Joker, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, Heath Ledger's performance gave us an opening. It gave us a look at how really maniacal the Joker really is, as opposed to Jack Nicholson's Joker, which was more comedic than anything, in my opinion. Was more quote unquote chemical based. We looked at literally the descent, shall I say the descent? It could actually be said as the ascent of mental illness. You could say a mental breakdown, but in all reality, it was a mental rising, where and when you watch more of the movie, you see exactly what caused or could have been the causes of this mental breakdown that this character had, who eventually became the Joker. The flashbacks, the revelations of who he was and where he came from, all came as a surprise not only to the audience but also to the character himself. And granted, I don't think of any of you guys as being mentally unstable, so it's kind of hard for me to say, yep, that would happen to me if I found that out too. You don't know that. You really don't know what kind of effect that would have on your psyche until it's actually happened, until what your thoughts were prior to that. And then somebody literally just dropped the egg on the floor and said, "Oh, guess what?"
Okay, yeah. All right, so guys, let's go into kind of a different category here, different shift.
Okay.
This story, as much as it's a dramatic triumph and for Joaquin Phoenix, as much as it's a character story, this story is pulled from the comic book world. For audiences that may be getting ready to go in, do you have to be a comic book or a Batman fan, or can this stand up as just an examination?
It's a standalone. It is definitely a standalone.
Well, and it doesn't actually pull from the comic books. Right. Because the origin story of the Joker in the comics is very different from this.
Yeah.
This is a creative license to a potential, and I think it was more of a, hey, so in today's society, we're worried about bullying, we're worried about mental illness, we're worried about processes that create uncontrollable types of attitudes. And I think this was just let's pull all that together and create a potential origin story. So this isn't even from the comic books at all.
To be fair, in the comics, there is no considered canon origin story for the Joker.
There is.
Oh, yeah, there is.
There absolutely is. Absolutely there is. Yeah, there's no question there is. I mean, that's
the Joker's first origin story came in the animated series. That was his first origin story. The comic didn't say where the Joker came from. It only said that he did it. And later in the animated series, Mark Hamill added all it takes is one bad day in The Killing Joke. And then there were a lot of different things. In fact, it's given rise to theories online that the Joker is actually a persona, not a person, that there's actually multiple Jokers throughout time.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't like that.
I don't buy that one. Honestly.
I don't buy it. I don't like it. I don't like the multiple personas.
Well, it's not. If you look at the comic book series, it talks about the origin of the Joker.
What is the Batman animated series where Batman is old?
Batman Beyond. They actually talk about
those are multiple Jokers in that series, correct?
They pass on the mantle of the Joker.
They made it into a gang.
Yeah, it made into a gang. It's being the leader of that gang. The Joker is a mantle that's passed on from generation to generation, so to speak. And it starts with an origin somewhere, but it's always left in the ether as to whether or not he is. If you go back to the 60s, the Joker is kind of a foil for Batman. He's a crook. If you go back to the 80s, he's a serious.
He's Batman's Lex Luthor is what he was.
But I think audiences are more familiar with the origin story based on Joker from Jack Nicholson's character.
Yeah,
how Jack Nicholson, the gangster, became the Joker.
And the chemical splash that affected him not only physically but also mentally. And that was the original canon concept of how the Joker was created. And then people had creative licenses past that. But that's also how the comic books portrayed the Joker. That's how it happened with him. Because every supervillain and every superhero has to have some type of things like a spider bite, a chemical bath, or
And also, if I can interrupt, I think the first time I ever found a reality-based superhero. Okay, first it was a superhero. A reality, a good exact reason of how someone can actually become this character was Christian Bale's first Batman movie. I'm like, holy mackerel. Okay, yeah, he got we're seeing how all of his gadgets are being made, being produced, who produced them. I'm saying, oh, wow, okay, I can see how anyone can actually become a Batman. Whereas prior to that, in the comics and in Michael Keaton's movie and all this kind of stuff, you basically saw literally a superhero just appear out of the blue. In terms of the same,
he's already Batman.
In terms of the same result was this movie with Joaquin Phoenix, where you literally can see an everyday guy just go off the deep end, and literally fate just chose him to say, okay, you're going to be the Joker now. You know, it's right. Because, well, he's a madman. He's maniacal, and he advanced up to that stage of being a believable supervillain.
Okay, guys, so let's look at Joaquin Phoenix. Let's look at the movie overall. High point. What is the without giving too much of a spoiler? What is the high point? What was the high point of the movie for you? Is there a moment in the film when you were just like, yeah, this is good, or and next we're gonna do, to give it some, we'll juxtapose it with what was the low point. Okay, so we'll try to do that. High point for you in the film.
Who are you asking
let's
first?
start with let's see. We went with Lee was last, so we'll do Lupo first.
Good.
So that way Lee can think.
Yeah. It
so
takes a
to
while.
me, the high point of the film was the moment he snapped.
Okay.
It's like he went from I'm freaking out to now I have a purpose. And it was that snapping moment where he's like, he went from constantly just flipping out. It's like there's this scene in there where he just goes off and he purposely leaves someone alive. And Lee knows exactly the scene I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And he goes, you're always nice to me. You can go.
Yeah.
And the guy is like, and so it's like, he's not like, I have to kill everyone. It's, I have to kill rude people, kind of, is where it really kind of, he kicks. And the guy is freaking out and he goes, you can go. And there was like, oh, never mind, he changed my mind, I'm going to kill you. He was like, yeah, it's okay, go ahead. And the guy is just, I mean, that scene to me was the pinnacle, because at that moment you see where there is no going back for this guy. He's gone. He's absolutely gone. And now he has a whole new reality about the people around him. And I thought that was the pinnacle, and that was the high point. The lowest point of the film was like almost the first half of the film, where I see the backstory, I see the buildup, but there was way too much, way too much. And I'm like, you didn't need all of that. There was, like I said before, too much repeat. But the moment where he got to his limit and snapped at that moment, I went, wow, absolutely wow.
There's a really slow, for you, it was a really slow buildup, but once you got there, it was all in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So, Mark, how about you, man?
It's really interesting what he said, because I either have two, or this is complicated for me, because in terms of the high point, I'm going to say this without it not necessarily being above the other, but I never knew the realization that there was in fact a laughing disease just opened up a world for me. It's like I went all the way back to Mark Hamill. I went all the way back to any Joker that ever had that maniacal laugh, thinking, okay, well, he's just mad. Never knowing that there was an actual disease, quote unquote, a laughing disease that caused Joaquin Phoenix's character to act like he did. It would be irritating as hell to me, being maybe a coworker of, or what was his real name, guys? Shoot. God. Anyway, you know where I'm getting.
Yeah.
If I work with this guy.
So this is, if I'm understanding this correctly, and I've read a couple articles since the movie's come out, this disorder is kind of a offshoot to something like Tourette's.
Correct.
Where automatically you begin laughing for no reason. And that triggers more laughter because you have glands that are connected to your smile muscles.
Yes.
Creates more laughter.
And like any quote unquote asshole out there in society who do not want to relate your habits to a medical scenario, the laughing would have irritated the living daylights out of me, especially when you're trying to talk seriously with a guy and all of a sudden you think he's ridiculing you and he's not. And he had to, spoiler alert, explain.
He had
Okay.
a card he would give someone saying,
thank you.
This laughing is a medical condition and I have no control.
And once the viewers see the rest of the movie, they'll understand how this plays throughout, and you're not thinking about this being part of the Joker's persona until, in fact, you see him cross over into the role of quote unquote Joker. And it was never the Joker. He literally wanted to be called Joker.
Joker, yeah.
So that was the high point.
And there's a whole build-up for that too. There's a reason why he asked to be called Joker.
Yes, but that was my high point, was the revelation of why he had this maniacal laugh.
And now, just a reminder for all of our fans and friends out there on YouTube that are thinking we're all crazy here, pseudo-bulbar is the laughing and crying disease. It cannot be cured, only treated if you have it. So
much like Tourette's.
Yes, much like Tourette's, it's called pseudo-bulbar.
Yeah.
And it does cause this. It's a real thing. It's a mental illness. Look into it, guys. Okay, so low point, man. Was there a point?
Oh, so many.
You just weren't thrilled.
Well, the low point, I wasn't thrilled. I think Lupo was right. I don't want to agree all the time. It wouldn't be a great movie review show if we agreed on everything, but unfortunately I have to. I think, in fact, when it didn't move along like it should have. It could have been some editing in that. Unfortunately, it would have made for a shorter movie, and I would have loved for this to have been a 2.5-hour movie, but still, there was some editing that needed to be done in this movie. There were some unnecessary things that like Lupo said, repeated it. I said, wait a minute, we've gone through this. Please move along. Next, you wanted to get to that, and I think probably another low point was he was taking care of his mom. I didn't want that to be an excuse for him to lash out at the world because maybe his mom's sick, maybe his mom wasn't getting the medical care she needed, yada yada yada. That's a cop out to me. It's like, no, be original. Don't. I had to take care of my mother for my entire life, and I'm miserable. I'm mad at the world. I don't want that kind of atmosphere in a movie like this. That was probably something that could have been moved to the side or sped up a bit too, because we did go back to that a few times more.
Okay. Okay, guys. So how about this was a pretty full cast, and it was a deep dive again into a character's life, a more realistic, as Mark said, look at an origin story. Any favorite or standout supporting roles or supporting cast that just stand out in your mind as having brought it?
No, it was
Joaquin Phoenix all the way.
It was his spotlight. Yes, it was his spotlight.
This was his, yeah.
I mean, there were some other stars in there. I mean, that you'll see. That they all did a great job. Everyone did a great job, but I hate to say it, Joaquin Phoenix overshadowed every aspect of this film.
Well, and that's the way it should be, right? It is a Joker film. This guy is the center of it.
He was bigger than life in this film.
Yeah.
You know who I didn't like? You know who I didn't like?
Huh?
Think hard. Alfred.
Okay.
Actually, yes, absolutely, because
Alfred.
he was completely out of character for what Alfred is.
This
100%.
Guy was supposed to have been former special services, a British agent, close to a freaking super spy, and then
they got him completely wrong. Absolutely, I agree with you. I've forgotten about that. I blocked it out.
And even new, which is really funny because in the time that they were filming Joker and deciding what characters from the Batman universe to bring in, which ones not to bring in, etc. Alfred's origin story was being expanded because streaming services were offering Pennyworth, which is a look at Alfred's background.
And that's why I didn't like Alfred, because I've seen every rendition, even in 1966 Batman, for God's sakes. I thought that guy was more courageous than this Alfred.
Well, and now that you bring it up, Mark, I didn't particularly like his father.
Yes.
His father was out of character as well, because the way he's portrayed in the comics, and why he's Bruce Wayne's so dedicated, to his father. was because of a specific character. So in my opinion, it wasn't as bad as Alfred, but it was not who he should have been.
I agree.
They took too much creative license on those two characters.
If you're not a comic book fan or a comic movie fan, and you go in here just as a movie, you might not notice these things. But if
you will.
You will. I agree.
Notice
you will
because you get a negative connotation over those two characters.
Yeah, it's like, well, he's supposed to be a benevolent father. He's supposed to be somebody who his 8-year-old son at that time saw as being an important person to society, to charity, to people, and then you actually find the opposite just in one scene. In one scene, you see all of that just brought at the gate, if you get my drift. You see it all just like, well, who the hell is this guy? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
He's
So
right.
we're coming up on about 30 minutes into this thing, and we've got one more movie to look at before we make some announcements. So let's go ahead and
It's all Lupo.
overall, we're gonna say what is your 1 to 10 score of this movie, and then the question of the hour. Is this something you want for your personal video library? So who wants to go first, guys?
So mine is a quick score. Oh, we do it together.
Okay.
So, wait. Before we do our scores,
okay,
you should break it down like we did last time with acting and overall story.
Okay, well, we can do that. We'll go into each section, each
yeah,
part.
and then an overall score for the film.
That would be awesome. So so let's take a look at this in its segments. So let's take we did character development up front.
Yeah.
So let's look at the overall performances of the acting crew and how they did. And obviously, we know Joaquin Phoenix was stand out above the rest. So overall performances, underdone, overdone, or just right?
You want to go at the same time, Mark?
Yeah. Okay.
Overall acting. Let's just look at Joaquin Phoenix.
We're doing Joaquin.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. 10.
Boom. Oh my Lord. Okay. So in this movie, they had to create
I hate agreeing with you. Okay, go ahead.
I hate it too.
I hate it.
But we're both sport people,
okay,
so
well, in this movie,
we have
they
good
had to
taste.
build not just any city, not just any urban environment. They had to build Gotham.
Yeah.
And they had Gotham has a very distinct feel to it. It's kind of New York, Newark. It's dark. It's gritty. Let's look at the setting of Joker. Does it fit the movie? Does it fit the story that we're telling? How do they do in presenting Gotham and its troubles?
So are you asking about Gotham or the story?
Yeah, I'm trying to analyze the question too. What did you?
The setting of the story. Does it jive with the story? Yeah.
So are we saying, does the film portray Gotham appropriately?
Yes. There we go.
All right.
Now we know
ready.
We know from before that not all characters are portrayed properly.
Right.
But is the overall aesthetic and the overall, story of Gotham.
Okay, we got it. All right.
Ready?
So,
1 to 10. On 3, 2, 3, go.
5.
4.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I said 5. He said 4.
Big alterations in the setting of this story.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So let's look at storytelling. Storytelling overall. This is a big one for Mark, I know. Direction. The direction that this story went with the director, storytelling wise, from 1 to 10. Great story at 10. Horrible story at 1. Somewhere in the, in there. Ready? Get your thinking caps.
Yeah.
1, 2, go.
5.
Oh.
Right. Mark, I didn't hear yours.
I said 8.
8. Okay. So there's obviously some differences in how you guys perceive the story element. All right, guys, here we go. Overall, 1 to 10. What did you think of the film overall? And then, would you have it in your personal library? We'll start with, instead of going at the same time on this one, we'll start each one. So let's go to Lupo. You had the low score for story. So let's say overall score. And is this something that's going to go in your library?
My overall score is probably a 6.
A 6, okay.
And if it wasn't for Joaquin Phoenix, the movie would have been garbage. He's the only thing that saved that film. He saved the film.
Wow.
In fact, the movie is only the movie because of him.
Yes.
100%.
Damn it, Lupo.
Is this something that you're prepared to own or no?
No, I would not own this film. I mean, I'm glad I watched it one time, but I don't ever need to see it again.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm at a 7.
You're at a 7. Okay.
Only for the same reasons. There wasn't any really knockout scenes. There wasn't a number of knockout scenes. A number of knockout scenes would definitely have given me a 10. But now I'm just focusing entirely on Joaquin and how he is molding this character of being the Joker, and that's why I even gave him a 10 for acting. I'm like, oh, that's great. But everything else around him, it's like, I kept going with, guys, you could have did better somewhere, somehow. So yes, I would have given the movie a 7, even though I graded it higher when I wrote the review. But that was immediately after I came from the movie. When
you come out of the movie theater, you got that hype.
You gotta digest
the movie. Yeah. You gotta let it settle, right? Simmer.
You gotta digest, and it's like everything I wanted to rant and rave about was Joaquin Phoenix.
Now, Lupo, you said this up front about the teaser, so I want to add one more grade to this. We already have our overall scores and our individual pieces, but there's one more piece to this puzzle, and you mentioned it up front, Mark. Score.
Music, yes.
What do we think of the score of this film?
I don't even remember the.
Oh my God! Stop it! Absolutely right. If I don't remember it, it doesn't even deserve a score because I really don't. I don't even remember the score. I have no idea. I remember the music, like I told you in the beginning. I remember the music from the trailer, which was dead on. It was perfect. Yeah. Booming music. There's the graphics on the screen. Joker, Joaquin Phoenix. Perfect. I'm going. But sitting there and saying, come on, guys, where's the backup? It ain't there.
Nothing there. Okay. So that's fantastic, guys. If you guys get a chance, if you're interested and you like the scores that you heard, or you don't believe us, either way, Joker is still in theaters. You can decide for yourself. By all means, if you think we're crazy, leave the comments down below and tell us we're crazy.
You can say that Lee's crazy, but
we're pretty close on this one. It wasn't a perfect match, but 6 and 7 is pretty close. So you guys let us know what you think.
Can you please stop bothering my kid?
Sorry.
Arthur, I have some bad news for you. This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
And finally, in a world where everyone thinks they could do my job, check out this guy.
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
It's so awful, isn't it?
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
You think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker?
Send
clowns.
What if an app could tell you how long before you die? Our phones have become essential. Apps keep track of our schedules, our fitness, our love lives. But what if an app could tell you how long?
I got 63 years.
57 years.
Before you die. Would you want to know?
What? 2 days?
This app, it's fake, obviously.
My girlfriend said the same thing. It knew. That app said she was gonna die.
Whatever's happening to us, I think it's because of this app. I need a new phone. A new phone, new number, new service.
Anything else I can help you with?
No.
The countdown app, it's really just a random number with a clock. It's not that scary, but it seems like it worked on YouTube clowns.
This must be everyone that downloaded the app.
My sister, she downloaded it.
All we need to do is beat the clock by 1 second.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
No, but I've read about it. A lot. What if this doesn't work? A fate much worse than death will pursue you.
Come with me.
It will overwhelm you until you are utterly destroyed.
Wake up.
Yo, are you calling my name?
We want to go over to Robert Lupo now, though, for a short period of time. We're going to give you the stage, my man, because you went to a movie by yourself this week. You saw Countdown.
Yeah, I want to point out.
Thank you.
We actually talked about both of us seeing Countdown this last week, but realistically, I went and saw it last night with a friend of mine because I knew it was in our queue, and I'm glad Mark did not go to see this because it is definitely not a Mark movie.
My spidey sense went off.
So let me talk a little bit about Countdown. It's not just about an app that predicts when you're going to die. It's a horror film. It's a 100% horror film. The interesting thing about this is I love horror films. That is so not into Mark's wheelhouse. He doesn't enjoy them. I love horror films. I love haunted houses. I like Halloween Horror Nights. I like scary movies. I absolutely loved it. But I didn't love this. I felt the movie was scary, but the different types of scares you have in horror films is a whole multitude of types of scares. And a horror film should have different blends of those scares to create a good environment.
Yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Logical.
All right, so you have pop out scares where
jump scare.
It's a jump scare where it's all of a sudden there's the creature in front of you, and everybody goes, "Oh crap!" And then you have suspense films, and the best movie ever for a suspense film was the original Alien movie, where you never saw the creature, into the very, very end, but you knew that bastard was there. You know, you got a cat hissing, all this stuff, and you're like freaking out in your chair going, what the hell's going on? What does it look like? Brilliant, brilliant directing in that film. So in this one, it was very, very little suspense. Like, you know, you would see a shadow, you'll see it then, and then the thing is it got repeated. It goes shadow, shadow, scary music, pop out scare. Shadow, shadow, scary music, pop out scare. So at the point after the first one, you're like, okay, all right, now we're gonna have the creature pop out again. We're gonna jump a little bit. The person I was with spent most of the movie laughing, you know. And there was a couple of pop outs that got me, and they were done well, but it was so repetitive. I liked the story concept because they went all the way back to ancient times and curses and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then they tried to do a little twist at the end. And I said, but you just said earlier that once this happens, it's the end. So everybody is released from the curse. And then they tried to bring it, well, we're going to bring it back. And I'm like, you can't. You've already explained it can't be done. So you can't go back on the lore that you develop. So if you sit there and
if you're going to build fear, especially that emotional fear in an audience, continuity is everything. You have to maintain truth in storytelling, because
if I tell you this magic penny is going to protect you, and they show you that it protects you, but then all of a sudden it doesn't protect you, everything you said before is a lie. And now the whole movie doesn't make sense. So they did that, and that kind of pissed me off. So do you want my overall scores, or you want to break it down?
No, let's go down the list just like we do for any other film. We're going to go down the list and say, okay, so story, overall story development, direction of the film. We'll start there, and then we'll go to performance, and then we'll finish up with we just came from a horror convention. You and I a couple weeks ago. So we'll talk a little bit about the overall concept for the film, and that kind of thing, and then we'll do our final score. So direction of the film from a storytelling perspective, beginning, middle, end, that kind of thing. I'm getting a feeling from your comments that you're not so thrilled with it, but go ahead. Let's score it.
So I liked the idea of the story. I just don't feel, the whole concept and idea was actually really good.
Okay.
Just was not executed well. And that was the problem. They had a really good idea. And then I think what they did is like, how do we talk about it? We'll roll some dice and we'll make it up as we go. I almost felt that it was filmed without a script. They just ran with the idea. And like Blair Witch Story had ideas and then they filmed it, but that worked. I don't feel it worked here. And I know they had a script and the story was and there's parts that made perfect sense. I don't feel it was executed well.
Okay, so we get a high score. What would you say for story overall? A high score is
so the story, I think it was about an 8.
8, okay.
Execution was about a 4.
Oh, okay. Performance. The actors and the actresses. This is a tough one for horror because a lot of times we get some great center stage performers, but then a lot of stuff in the background goes wrong. So horror it's very performance driven. If you don't believe that they're scared, you're not scared. Performance. What did you think?
I actually thought the actors really stepped out and did well. I felt that they were believable in how they reacted scared. There's a girl in there that's supposed to be, the main character's sister. And I thought she looked freaking terrified. Wow. Believable. Absolutely believable. And I thought the main character was believable.
That's why I won't go.
I know.
Which brings me, again, we talked
acting
about
wise, I would give them probably about a 7.5.
Awesome. That's good. So now this leads us back to a point we talked. That was the last point we talked about for Joker. But it is even more critical in a horror film, and that is the soundtrack, because without a good soundtrack in a horror film that really punctuates those jump scares, that really builds suspense, without anything happening in the background, a horror film is, again, not everybody can get lucky with a Blair Witch Project. Sometimes they just are rock. So what did you think of the soundtrack here? Did it bring you into the universe or no? Is that one of the mistakes they made?
It was too repetitive. They used the same process every scare. So same soundtrack from what I remember, and I just saw it last night. So if that gives you an idea of how well it stuck in my head.
Then yeah, exactly.
So it's like, you know, shadow, shadow, soundtrack, scare, shadow, shadow, soundtrack, scare. And it was good the first 2 times. And then it just, at this point, it's like, okay, now just hide your eyes because you don't want to see the jump scare.
And just so y'all on YouTube and out there on the web understand, the soundtrack is so important, especially to a thriller or a horror film.
Absolutely.
I know that my reviewers here will agree. You will remember if a soundtrack touches you and convinces you and brings you into a movie. Soundtracks are infamous. Jaws. No,
I was just about to bring that up. What's the one thing you remember about Jaws? Dun, dun, dun,
there you
dun,
go.
Dun, dun,
Those
dun,
are.
dun, dun,
You guys have any horror or thriller? I know Mark's not a horror guy, so we'll go horror or thriller soundtracks that you can remind in your mind.
No, but our next topic is also a prime example. That's how that guy came up in the prominence, is that soundtrack for that movie. Imagine if that soundtrack did not exist for that movie. How would we react to it?
Exactly. I agree. So the thing is, when you look at a really, really good horror flick or suspenseful, that soundtrack, the key soundtrack, I mean, Aliens always starts the same way as that type music in the background.
Halloween.
Jaws, Halloween.
That's right.
You know, and so when you look at the ones that really stood out above the rest, that soundtrack is instantly recognizable by you.
Yes.
This is not one of those films.
Oh no! If I hear those keys from Jaws, I don't care if I'm in the Midwest. I'm terrified.
Yeah. Oh my God! Yeah, it brings back all my childhood fears.
Well, I didn't go into the ocean. I'm standing on the edge of the water in the sand, and the freaking soundtrack goes through my head, and I'm like, nope.
Nope. That's right. Okay, guys, we are down to about.
Do you want a final score?
Oh yeah, sorry, I almost missed that. The final score. We got so in depth into the movie that I was kind of wondering. I don't get the feeling this is going to do very well. Mark, what do you think? What feeling are you getting?
It's going to tank.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here. Mark and I are going to do something we don't normally do. I'm going to guess Lupo's score, and then I'm going to ask Mark to do the same. We're going to see how close we get.
Okay.
I'm betting that Lupo's score is about a 5.
I am betting that his score is a 5.
Okay, Lupo, 4. Oh my! We gave them too much credit.
Yeah.
Not too much. You didn't give him too much credit.
No. I mean, you guys are pretty spot on, and it's definitely not a movie I would own.
Yeah.
Definitely not a movie you would own. Wow. Guys, we're down to about our last 15 minutes, and we've got some really exciting things coming up. We talked after our debut Let's Go to the Movies show last week. We talked afterwards about what we were going to do coming up, because one of the biggest event movies of the year, certainly the biggest of the year, maybe the biggest in a long time, is coming up. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, coming to theaters in December. We're planning some really special coverage of this event. Mark is already putting together some pre-coverage with some really super special guests to talk about their experiences in, over the past, 42 years. 42 years. As a part of this franchise, as the Skywalker saga comes to a close. Mark, tell us a little bit about what's coming down the pike for us on Let's Go to the Movies.
Okay, hopefully, Lupo and Garrett will get to share probably briefly our experience of seeing Star Wars for the very first time. But before we get into that, I want to mention that I have a show on December 13th called Star Wars: The End. Literally, it is the end of the saga, the end of the Skywalker storyline, the whole 9 yards. And what I put together, and this is going to bite me in the butt, and I know that because I've done something similar to this before, where I did a show on something. I don't even remember what the show was, but I had 60 guests. It was ridiculous. Now, slated, I had them for 5 minutes each, hey, blah, 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 blah. This is turning out to might have to be close to the same thing, only because of the number of people that are accepting my invitation. And if you can join me on December 13th on this network, it'll be, check this out. It's Friday the 13th, okay? It's Friday the 13th, 7 p.m. It'll be a week before the debut. Hopefully, with fingers crossed, that this troupe here will be able to see the movie long before you guys see it. Fingers crossed. I did for the last movie. I actually saw it on a Tuesday, I think, before the Thursday early viewing of it. But hopefully we'll be all there and can do something special for it. We'll definitely have our review probably up before the movie actually debuts. So that's what we're going to try and work out. But in the meantime, my show on the 13th, I have a lot of people that I cannot name or announce as of yet. But I can say that some of them actually have a closer than close relationship to Star Wars. And you might want to come on and check that out. And I still have a few other people that I'm expecting invitations from. Guys, we're just going to sit around and talk about our experience and not delve too much into the last 6 movies. We prefer to go for the first 3. Okay, that's what Star Wars was about, is about, and I am not a basher. I love them all because it's Star Wars. I'm not going to peel it apart and say, well, I hate Star Wars because this happened. No. Not a true Star Wars fan. Sorry.
Well, as we come to the end of the Skywalker saga, the dynastic saga that it has been, it is a great time to look back at especially that first film.
Let's go to the beginning. Since we're coming to the end, let's go to the beginning.
Mark, how old were you, and when did you see Star Wars?
You never ask a woman their age, but okay. I was probably the oldest out of you guys in seeing it. I was in literally my middle teens when I saw Star Wars. You do the math all you want. That at least you're going to be coming.
You're old.
Yeah. But the most interesting thing, and if I can start off on this real quick, about this was the months prior to some movie called Star Wars, and me as a teen going basically to the theater every freaking weekend. The theater would set up with coming soon, upcoming, blah, 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 blah. But the difference in this was they had little placard cards stuck to the walls all over the theater with no wording whatsoever. So I'm looking at a freaking gold robot. There's a dog? You know, oh, look, a little small pill case on wheels, you know, and that was, we had no names. Starlog magazine was around at that time, but you know, we weren't getting any not too much pre-information. We probably were from them, but I wasn't picking up much on it. And then we got this guy in a freaking black mask with this, you know, respiratory system problem, and we didn't know what to make of it. You know, a white wedge, look at, that's an interesting spaceship. Wow, look at that. You know, that was our impression months before walking into the theater and being blown away, because I was in fact blown away. I saw Star Wars 5 times that day, 11 times for the weekend as a preteen. Wow. That it worked in a positive way.
I like
my world. Go ahead.
I like to point out something about movies then and movies today. So back in our day, all of us, as a kid, back in our day, I remember, I mean, because I was in the 5th grade in 77, and back then it was 50 cents for a matinee. So the day that opened up, I was there. I was one of the first people in line, and I sat front row center at the Fox Arlington Theater in Santa Barbara, California. Big, huge screen. And I only left that seat to go to the bathrooms, because back then you could sit and watch over and over.
You didn't have to leave.
Again.
Yes.
And they had a balcony. And I sat there until the very last showing that evening.
That's the same exact thing that I did.
The next day, dropped my 50 cents and did the exact same thing. And I did that over and over and over again because I couldn't get enough.
It was an 8-hour day for me because I watched 5. It was an 8-hour day.
97, I was 7 years old, and I had seen during like cartoons on Saturdays and during some of the television programs some small ads because my dad and I used to watch like classic sci-fi in reruns on TV. He loved Star Trek. He loved The Twilight Zone. He loved these things. And I would watch with him, and it was kind of our dad-son time. And I saw this thing, and I said, hey, can we go to that? And he said, sure. And we had a little theater that had been an off-Broadway, like vaudevillian theater back in the day. And in the 60s and 70s, they converted it to a movie house. And so they had the big screen that came down over the stage and the balconies and the fancy everything. And we didn't go to the movies very often. But I said, can we go to this? It looks so cool. And I'm 7. So a shiny droid, like you said, Mark, shiny droids, you have no idea what to think of this. It's just all of these really cool little visuals.
Yeah.
And so I'm 7 years old, and I got him to take me to the Stanley Theater in Utica, New York. And we stood in line, and I believe it was probably a couple weeks after the opening around the rest of the country because there was already buzz and there were already lines in front of the Stanley. And so we got in line, we went in the theater, and he stayed with me through the whole first showing of the movie. And then he got up and he said, I have to get back to work. And he ran a little shop down the street. He said, do you want to stay? And I just, yes. And I
First of all, don't ask stupid questions. And
yeah. Yeah. Why are you asking dumb questions? I stayed in the Stanley, I think 4 times, 5 times through that entire day and evening until he was done. And then within the next month and a half ish or whatever it was, I ended up seeing that at 7 years old. I saw that movie 27 times.
Wow.
I couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but for a 7-year-old seeing this story, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, my sister and I, after that, used to go outside there was a big Quonset hut out on the back of our property, and it had a chain that made the big door go up. And we used to climb on top of oil barrels and swing across in front of the door because we were pretending to be Luke and Leia swinging across the chasm. It had such an impact at that age.
At my age, being a preteen, and I was really big into building model cars, the old Revell set where you had the glue that you had to buy and sniff as well. But anyway, so during those days, I was a preteen. Okay, I was not a preteen. I was a mid-teen, and I started when that came out. It was one of the first movies in our era. Now remember, prior to Star Wars, we were watching Jaws. We were watching American Graffiti. A lot of movies that didn't have
Bugsy Malone. Do you remember that
Bugsy
one?
Malone, yes. All the kids, all the children, yeah. We really did not see anything like Star Wars. So it was a staple in our life. It was the beginning of a lot of things that, created. But what I was about to say was that it was the first movie that created merchandising. So with Lucas having the forethought, say, hey, I want to build little models about what we were going to do. Nobody would buy that crap. What do you want to do that for? And lo and behold, people just started buying up stuff like crazy. But it's just, since I was a comic book collector as it was back in that day, that put me into another area of collecting, of merchandising, and I remember distinctly all of the models that came out related to Star Wars. And then, of course, the other 2 sequels to that, which Empire is my favorite. I don't know what's your favorite, guys, but Empire is my favorite of those 3. But that just started a whole new course in my life, literally in my life after that movie.
What's your favorite, Robert? What was your favorite of the original trilogy?
I'm with Mark on that. Empire. I was in Juneau, Alaska when that got released, and I watched it there. I wanted to point out something here. Star Wars was the first movie that people can remember where they sat and watched it over and over and over again, because before that really didn't happen. And if you look at it, the iconic movies that really stand out are those types of movies. I mean, we had Star Wars, and then the next one that I can remember was Indiana Jones.
Yes,
good
job.
Where we
That's
sat
exactly
down
and
watched over and over again.
That was the
Now,
next movie I was going to mention. Yes.
yeah,
Star
and then
Wars-
I
Star Wars
deviate
also-
because Goonies did that for me too. But
Star Wars
hey,
may
hey.
also be Star Wars may also be one of the few franchises that, and I want to use this word in a way that I know that Lupo and Lee will understand, but we'll explain it a little bit to our audience, and that is, today we have great actors. We have phenomenal dramatic actors. We have Joaquin Phoenix. We had Heath Ledger. We had these great actors. But Star Wars was a pinnacle time because for our generation of kids, the last generation had movie stars.
Yes.
We weren't getting those anymore. We were getting great actors, but we weren't getting movie stars.
well,
then
and
Star
nobody was a
came-
known person in Star Wars. These
Except-
were all
Then Star Wars came
except-
out.
except for
Ben Kenobi.
Jones. Huh?
No, Ben Kenobi.
Well, and Ben Kenobi,
Ben
and then
Kenobi,
the voice of Darth
and that was
Vader.
again, that was
Everybody else was unknown.
we had Alec Guinness, who was yesteryear's
Of
star,
course.
but all of
course.
ours were unnamed. And if you went back to even the guys that we know are fantastic Oscar award-winning actors of the era, Jack Nicholson and those people, but we didn't have the great movie stars anymore. And then Star Wars and Indiana Jones and these movies happened and gave us our generation's movie star. Harrison Ford is an icon. He's a true movie
And
star.
he started in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That was his
Well,
real break.
American Graffiti.
Right. But he really took off after Star Wars. I mean,
that's
he was
what got
known.
him the part as Indiana Jones.
That's where, and that's how Indiana Jones came out. He goes, he's perfect for Indiana Jones. But if you look at it, Mark Hamill, his past was different. Carrie Fisher's past was different. Harrison Ford is the one where Star Wars truly launched his career.
Right.
Yeah, and made him our generation's movie star, an icon. I mean, you could put Harrison Ford's face on a postage stamp. They'd recognize him anywhere in the world. Even if they couldn't name a different movie, they could name Han Solo. They could name Indiana Jones because it's so iconic. It created a movie star. Mark Hamill, I think, and Carrie Fisher both, well, like you said, they went in different directions. Star Wars did the same thing to them. They are forever Luke and Leia. All the way into later in life. They were movie stars as Luke and Leia. We knew Carrie and Mark. That was how we knew them. And even Mark went on to do the Joker and some iconic voice work and other things and write books. Of course, Carrie, her one-woman show that she did was amazing, and all of her work is absolutely dramatically fantastic. But she will forever be Princess Leia because it's so iconic.
If I can say, much like my show on the 13th, we're going to have a lot of people that's going to want to talk, and that's going to be a wrangling nightmare for me. But I've done it before, and I think I know how to make it smooth running and interesting, because we're going to have video clips and regular photos as well as just seeing talking heads for an entire. Last show I did based on, I think, Dragon Con, at 3.5 hour show. I do not see this going for any less than that. So it's going to be a busy night that night. So I just hope that you guys can join us, so you guys personally, and then of course the viewers pop in. There is an interactive sort of like chat room that everyone can throw in their 2 cents and ask questions or make points and the whole 9 yards. Some we put up on the screen. We literally, if you type something super interesting, we put it up on the screen. And so that's what's happening the week before the last Star Wars movie. God, it's so funny to say that, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, it won't be the last of Star Wars movies, but it's the last of the
Skywalker saga. I guess.
Skywalker saga. Yeah. And what's interesting about this is for those of you, the younger generation, even you guys, episodes 1, 2, and 3 generation, you guys maybe not realize this.
Diaper wearers.
This is end of the series that we were promised in Sci-Fi Magazine back in 1980. They said we have a sequel, it's Empire Strikes Back, and there's going to be, this is a 9-story series.
3 trilogies.
Took 42 years.
Yeah.
But this is what we've been waiting for 42 years, is the end of the 9 movies that we were
originally. Has it been that long?
Yes, 42. Hey, I'm actually looking forward to The Mandalorian, which we break off, but my favorite knockoff from the Star Wars Skywalker saga was Rogue One.
Oh my God, what a phenomenal movie.
It made me cry at the end, literally, because like I said, if you can surprise me, if I'm predicting your script, if I'm seeing something that I was totally not expecting, you have won me over forever. And Rogue One sticks in my heart as something that I didn't see was possible, because if we really wanted to do the math, if we wanted to, we should be saying 10. Right?
Yeah, yes, because Rogue One was a prequel.
Prequel.
I have a question for both of you, because there are a lot of things that are going to be looked forward to about this movie, and I know we're going to break them down in the weeks to come.
Yes.
With different panelists and things like that.
Okay.
But I want to know from each of you, this will be the final time that we get to see the great and illustrious Carrie Fisher on screen. What are you guys expecting from? I mean, I can already tell you, I don't I see Carrie Fisher walking on screen, and I will be bawling like a baby girl, and I know that my family will be too. What about you guys? This is our last time to see Carrie up on the big screen.
I have a lot to say on this.
Yeah, well, I'll make mine short. I moderated a panel. Carrie and I sat on a panel together in Tampa. Well, I should say, and the dog. It was Carrie, I, and the dog. A weird
Gary.
tongue.
Gary
Yeah.
the dog.
Yeah, Gary and we sat on a panel. So it was a little bit of personal interaction going on backstage prior to us standing out. But to see Carrie, I've already mourned because of last movie. I've already gone through that mourning process. Now it's just going to be a fascination for me to see how they're going to take past clips of her, how they literally got her into the story in the first place, and exactly what is she doing or saying that I can't pick out as being a continuation or a possible continuation of an acting scene from the last movie. That's how I'm going to analyze it. So the feeling, I've moved on. I'm good. I miss her, love her, blah, blah, blah. I've moved on. So it's not going to be much of an interest for me other than the entire storyline.
Okay, well now, and in fairness, guys, because this is recorded on YouTube for all of posterity, so I actually respect what Mark just said because he has moved on. But storytellers have a tendency to get inside your head, especially good ones. J.J. Abrams is one of the best. So I'll be curious to come back and we're going to revisit Mark's comments and see if he was able to.
Yeah, that would be something.
Was able to maintain through that. So, JJ, there's a challenge for you. Mark B. Lee says,
edit.
It's cool.
Edit.
That's right. You keep us cool. All right. How about you, Robert Lupo? Can you keep your cool?
That's yet to be seen. I absolutely love Carrie Fisher. I've met her before, and very sweet, wonderful lady. I actually had a lot of interaction with Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill and I, and we can talk about it maybe on Mark's show, but I sat down and talked to, just chatted with him for an hour and a half at a production party. And we just sat down at a table, had some, had some food and drinks, and we just shot the shit for like, a good hour and a half. And he's spectacular. Now, when it comes to Carrie Fisher, when they were talking about doing this movie, she said, this better be about Leia because, the last film was about Han Solo, and the film before that was Luke Skywalker, and this one has to be kind of about me. And unfortunately, she passed before the film could be done. And originally, they said they're not going to do clips, they're not going to do CGI, and she's just not going to be in the film. And then we've all, of course, heard that changed. So this film was made up of, as far as I understand, they're not going to do CGI overlays, is what they said at least.
Yeah.
And that this was unused film from the previous films.
Right.
So they had to rewrite the script to make it appropriate for the story.
Yeah.
I hope it's good and makes sense because she deserves it. She deserves to have her light right there.
I think we all agree that this is the final movie in that 9-story arc that we were promised back when we were all in our childhood and teens. This is Carrie's final bow, as it were. And I think you're right, Robert. It had to be done in an appropriate way, because it had to be done in a way that leaves her memory the way we all remember her. And you remember her. I mean, I can honestly tell you, I saw Mark's panel with Carrie, and I saw other panels and other discussion groups with Carrie, and I can honestly say that woman, I know that visually she aged like we all do, but every time I saw Carrie on screen, on Facebook, on any medium, my eyes were 7 years old again, and all I saw was this gorgeous, beautiful Princess Leia that I grew up with. And so I think it'll be interesting to see. We have Lupo. He reserves judgment whether or not he can keep his cool. Lee predicts that he can keep his cool, and I predict that I will break like a baby girl. So let's see how we do in a couple of weeks when we all get to see this, and we'll see who was right, who was wrong, and who has. You know what? You guys can decide. Put it in the comments down below. Do you think we're all going to maintain? What do you think we're going to do? You think we're going to break? I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know who thinks I'm going to end up breaking down, because I'm known for I love chick flicks. So I love going to the movies, and I love finding that moment that makes me cry, because I'm very comfortable in that, and I actually enjoy those types of movies. So I'm almost predicting that I'm going to have some tears.
I hate chick flicks.
I saw the teaser. I got to say, I'll be honest. I saw the teaser. She's in like maybe 3.6 seconds of the teaser. Yeah. She's giving Ray a hug, and they're doing the voiceover. Yeah. And I got to tell you, I sat right there, and all I could think of was, oh.
Not me. I'm a man.
Yeah, kick me.
Or at least you play one on TV.
Yeah.
Right. Mark plays a man on TV. So
that's why I go to the theater by myself.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Let's Go to the Movies with Lupo and Lee and G.
Yay.
That's us, guys. So keep tuning into HWWS Web TV for more Let's Go to the Movies. We're gonna cover all your favorite films, or we're gonna make them your favorite films, one or the other. We don't know yet, but we're gonna try something, guys. Thank you so much for logging on and tuning in. Come back and enjoy Let's Go to the Movies with Lupo, Lee, and G.
It's an instinct. A feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Long have I waited. And now you're coming together. Is your undoing.
What are you doing there, 3PO?
Taking one last look, sir, at my friends.
Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Your destiny